It's already time, right? Okay, so let's start. So today we start with moves, and for this I prepared this handout, okay, which summarizes the tables we find in chapter 5 of Eggins and Slade. Okay, so this is the summary of all the tables we find in that chapter. Okay, but today we want to take a look at the concrete example we have in the chapter, that is the conversation, okay, between, friends, very close friends, okay, and which we find on from page 170, okay, through 173, I think. Okay, so it's, we have this long sample of one conversation, okay, and in order to understand and appreciate the remarks made in the conversation, okay, so usually in English classes, the first focus is to understand the content, okay, to understand the content, okay. So for this, we usually, have students, look up unknown words in the dictionary and then try to figure out the meaning, okay, of the sentences, the remarks made by the participants, right? But since we are now trying to understand conversation, okay, language in conversation, we have to add something more to this process of just getting the content, okay? So additional elements we need to understand what's going on in conversation is, of course, the situation surrounding the conversation, okay? And the situation is given in the first part of this sample. So this sample is entitled Text 5.1 Allenby, okay? Allenby is just the name for this, the piece of conversation, okay? And so whenever we refer to this conversation later in the text, we use this nickname for this, conversation. So it's called Allenby, okay? And the reason is the conversation starts with a mention of this person, Allenby, right? But before starting, starting to look at the real conversation, we have to understand the situation, and the situation given in the first in terms of the participants, okay? So participants, that's what we usually call the tenor, okay? Tenor, okay? Tenor means the participants, okay, and their roles in that conversation. So a conversation is a social occasion, so each participant plays a particular role in the group, right? So we have to consider the social roles of each participant, okay? So social roles of participants. Okay, so what information do we have about them? David, 32, Nick, 29, Liz, 27. So if you just go over this list of names, we notice that, well, they are almost about the same age, right? And they are not middle-aged yet, but still young. But some of them are, approaching middle age. Faye, 38. So she's maybe the only exception in this group. Okay. So and another piece of information we have is, the actual context. The participants are attending a dinner party hosted by Stephen and his partner who is in the kitchen throughout the following excerpt. So unfortunately, we don't have the partner in this conversation. David, Nick, and Stephen are long-standing friends who all play bridge semi-professionally. So, this characterizes the group, okay? Rather accurately, right? Or rather precisely, okay? So this is a group of friends whose hobby, or maybe, since we have the word semi-professionally, they have, this bridge, the card game, as, part hobby and part profession, okay? So, and that's the bond, or that's the tie, okay, connecting these three people, okay? Faye and Liz are novice bridge players who partner each other in local competitions, okay? So they, tie up together, okay, and then participate in local bridge competitions. So Faye and Liz, so both females. And Faye's partner, not present, is a professional bridge player and teacher and friend of David, Nick, and Stephen. So, well, this almost decides or determines the kind of topic we will encounter in this conversation, and that is called field, okay? So field, okay? And field is the kind of topics, okay? The kind of topics we see in the conversation, okay? So the conversation is probably focused on, well, bridge or something related to bridge, that is, special competitions, occasions, matches, and or maybe something about the technique, And unfortunately, we don't see any technical discussion of bridge in this conversation. But that's the field, okay? So and then now, so this is these things decides the context, okay? The context, okay? And the last parameter is called mode, okay? So since this is just an occasion of chatting, okay, among close friends, language is the most prominent medium, okay? So it's language-centered, okay? Language-centered, okay? If they are engaged in actual, play of bridge, then, language is subordinate, okay? So actual card game will be the center, okay, in that case. So this decides the context, okay? And then the following information is given here in order to understand the marks, okay, which precede each remark, okay? And so this is, from the tables we've been learning, in chapter 5, that is various moves, okay? Various moves or the groups of moves. And so we have O standing for opening move, R for reactive move, and D for developing move. And we already know the basic cycle for having this kind of chat, okay? So that is somebody makes an opening move, okay, and it's called initiate, okay, and then initiating moves are expecting or anticipating reacting moves, right? So you expect reactions, okay, or responses, okay. So, but as we know, usually when you want to discuss some topic, okay, first the topic itself has to be accepted by everybody, okay? By everybody, okay? So this situation is called initiated speech function, okay? So we propose some speech function which is called initiated speech function. Okay, and usually before this new speech function is accepted, the participants go through a process of negotiation, okay? So usually you have a process of negotiation. So far, we have looked at two of them. One is called tracking, okay? And tracking is mostly about, getting, understanding the initiated speech function correctly, okay? Correctly. So when you fail to hear one or two words in the initiated speech function remark, well, then you ask for the missed words, okay? And then you might want to know more about why the initiated speech function was made. And so that's something about the intent, okay? The intent of making a particular or putting forward a particular topic, okay? So that's also part of, the target of tracking moves, okay? The tracking moves can ask about some missing words, okay, which the hearer didn't get, or about the intent of the first speakers, okay, the first speakers, okay, for making that particular move, okay, or you can rejoinder, okay, that is not accepting the proposed speech function. That's called rejoinder, okay. But in the negotiation process, we have actually another kind which is called developing or prolonging, okay, developing or prolonging. These are more like reactions, okay? These are more like reactions, prolonging or developing, okay? And the idea is this. Well, when you suppose this is the topic the first speaker proposes, okay, to discuss. Okay, and then developing and prolonging means you add more information to the topic. Okay, so this is adding more information. Okay, so this is the the rough idea of prolonging and developing. Okay, so the first initiated speech function might be felt kind of, it may be acceptable, okay? It may be acceptable, but still, in order to have a more interesting conversation, you want to narrow down, okay? Narrow down the topic itself, okay? So narrowing down means you add more information, restricting the scope of the topic, okay, restricting the scope of the topic. So this can be, this goal can be achieved by using expansion moves, okay, expansion moves. So this is roughly the idea of behind these moves, developing, prolonging. Appending is also falls under the same, the same category, okay, expansion moves. Okay, so now we have this, idea of having a conversation in terms of moves. So basically you put forward some speech function, that is the topic, okay, new topic, and then you anticipate, okay, to get reactions on it, okay, get reactions on it. But usually, there's a process of negotiation. That is, somebody want to be sure about the topic itself, or somebody might reject to accept the topic, or somebody want to narrow down the topic itself. Okay, so these are narrowing down. Okay, now let's look at two more symbols, S and C, in lowercase letters. Okay, lowercase letters. Okay, so they are S stands for supporting, C for confronting. Okay, supporting and confronting. Now, the first remark, okay, and this is made by David. This conversation needs Allenby, okay? And so if you look at the symbols, okay, at the beginning of this line, we find O, that's opening, I for initiating, and the type of speech function that is giving his opinion, okay, giving his opinion. Okay, so David thinks, okay, this conversation needs Allenby. Okay, now the second remark, okay, which is not reaction yet. Okay, it's called R. So this is reacting move, but the nature of the reaction is challenge. Okay, and it's called rebound. Rebound. Okay, and if we look at the definition of this particular move, we get some very insightful information about, conversational exchanges. Okay, let's take a look at page 213. Okay, 213. Okay. Now, in this table, there are probably 4 very important moves. All these belong to the class of rejoinder moves. Okay, rejoinder moves. So this is, these are the moves you make when you don't want to accept the proposed speech function. Okay, so the important 4 are all at the bottom. So the first one is called rebound. Rebound. Okay. And then the definition is, which is, in the column titled Discourse Purpose. Okay, the purpose is to question relevance, legitimacy, or veracity of prior move. Okay, so you can question the relevance, legitimacy, or veracity. Now, these are the major 3 things. Okay. So one is relevance. Well, the topic is not relevant in this, in our current conversation. So that's the meaning of relevance. Okay, or legitimacy. Okay. That is, legitimacy is a synonym of legal, okay, legality. Okay, so something is legal or lawful. Okay, when some topic is not quite right at that particular moment of conversation, then its legitimacy is lacking. Okay, we don't have the legitimacy for the topic. Okay, so we cannot talk about that particular topic right now because there's some problem with it. Okay, so that's legitimacy. Veracity means truthfulness. Okay, truthfulness. Okay, so if somebody makes a statement okay, and if that statement is not true, okay, you can question, or you can maybe just criticize the veracity, okay, the truthfulness of the remark. Okay, so these are the three, three perspectives, okay, we can take for criticizing or questioning, okay, somebody's remark, okay, questioning somebody's remark, okay, and the next one is called counter, okay, counter. That's, this is mostly concerned with the right to speak, okay? So you don't have the right to talk about that particular topic, okay? So that's, you are so, well, sorry. I haven't, brought any good example for this, but this is mostly about, whether or not the speaker has the right to talk about that particular topic, okay? And refuting is about contracting the meaning, okay, the meaning of the proposed remark. And then re-challenging is to offer alternative position. That is, well, instead of your topic, we should talk about this topic. So you put forward your own topic, okay, which you claim to be better than the proposed topic. That's these are, if we just take this very brief look at these four moves, okay, we know that there are many approaches we can take, okay, many approaches we can take to somehow refuse a proposed topic, okay, proposed topic. And the most important ones are probably these, okay, relevance, legitimacy, and veracity, okay? And we have a very concrete example of one of these, okay, and in our conversation text, okay? So if you, let's get back to this, okay, so page 171, okay, look at this, okay, so this is challenge and rebound. Oh, he's in London, so what can we do? These people are in Australia, okay, in Australia, okay, somewhere in Australia, okay, probably in Sydney, okay, and so if in a conversation in Australia somebody suggests that we should have this particular person, okay, in our conversation, but the person is in London, that is in Great Britain, okay, so well, he cannot be in the conversation, so that is irrelevant, okay, his presence is irrelevant, okay, so that's physically impossible to have him in our conversation. So that's the kind of move called rebound, okay. So, well, RMB is irrelevant, okay, because, okay, if we want to have him, well, we have to get him to this place by paying the airfare or something, okay, and then the next move is called contradict, okay, contradict. Contradict is not rejoindering, okay? So now, this cycle of initiation and reaction, okay, all depends on the acceptance of the proposed topic, okay? So this is the kind of thing, okay, where when we really want to analyze, that is, rather than just understand, okay, what's going on in conversation, when we really want to analyze this kind of conversation as a linguist, okay, then there are lots of subtleties, okay? Lots of subtleties here, okay? And one subtlety is, to judge whether the proposed topic, has been really accepted, or maybe, the proposed topic is kind of like kept, like in a pending position, okay? So it's suspended, okay? It's suspended, okay? And so, there are, kind of like degrees of acceptance, okay? Degrees of acceptance rather than, absolutely accepted or absolutely rejected, okay? So the proposed speech function, okay, in Faye's remark, he's in London, so what can we do? This is a clear case of rejecting, right? This is a clear case of rejecting, okay? But the next remark by Nick, which is we don't need Allenby in the bloody conversation. So this is a reaction to the first remark by David. Okay, so David suggests that we'd better have Allenby in this conversation, but Faye rejected it. Okay, because he's in London, too far away. But Nick, his rejection is not the rejection of the topic. Okay, so he's accepted the topic, but he denied the content. Okay. We don't need Allenby in the bloody conversation. So Allenby, okay, is not necessary, okay, for this conversation. So that's a flat rejection, right? So this kind of problem is probably for professional linguists, okay, whether the proposed speech function has been accepted, really accepted, or kind of suspended, okay, suspended. That is the suspended and put, okay, to the process, or maybe relegated to the process of negotiation. The process of negotiation. Okay, so Faye's remark is the the first proposed speech function. Okay, is moved to the process of negotiation. Okay, but Nick's remark is, flatly rejecting. That is the case of reaction. Okay, so this is something for professional linguists to consider. So we don't have to, we don't need to be very serious about this kind of distinction. Okay, for our purposes. But still, we want to somehow feel the difference. Okay, feel the difference. That is, Faye's remark is concerned with the relevance, okay, the relevance of Allenby, okay, but Nick's remark, rejects, okay, that proposal by saying, well, Allenby is not the one we want to discuss, okay, so that's the difference, okay, we have to feel, okay, and understand, okay, and then the next move is the one example of adding, okay, adding more information, okay, adding information. So Nick continues his remark by saying, "'Cause all you'd get is him bloody raving on," okay, and this cause is of course an abbreviation of because, okay. So if we have Allenby here, okay, all you'd get is, well, the person keeps talking, okay? Keeps talking about many things, okay? Goes on talking about many things, okay? So that's bloody raving on, okay? So he might be a kind of like maybe not a very welcome person in the conversation because, he tries, he just, means to hold the floor all the time, okay? So that's what he is, okay? And then Faye elaborates it. Okay, elaborates it. Okay, so one negative view, okay, or one negative angle for this person, Allenby, was suggested by Nick, and then Faye corroborates. Okay, Faye corroborates. Okay, so she agrees with that angle, okay, with that opinion. Well, he's a bridge player, a naughty bridge player. Okay, so the first remark is just neutral. Okay, the further information about Allenby, right? He's a bridge player. Okay, so this is giving some information about Allenby. Okay, because there are probably at least two people who didn't know him. Okay, who didn't know him. Okay, so there is at least two new members. Okay, not two new members, but obviously there are people like Liz, okay, and somebody, okay, who didn't know about him. Okay, didn't know about him. Okay, so supplying this information is kind of neutral. Okay, he's a bridge player, but the next bit, okay, a naughty bridge player. This naughty is an appraisal term, right? It's an appraisal term, okay? So just by using one adjective, naughty, okay, Faye makes her position, okay? Faye makes her stance for Allenby clear, okay? For Allenby clear. So that's what we always do in our conversation, right? By choosing the right kind of adjective, okay? A naughty bridge player, okay? And so this is called elaboration, okay? Elaboration. And the previous one is called enhancement because, elaboration and enhancement, okay? So the previous remark cause, if he's here, all we'd get is, the person raving on, okay, constantly. That is giving reason, right? Giving reason, okay? So reason is one of the enhancement categories, okay, from our expansion table, okay? Expansion table, right? Okay? And elaboration is, supplying more information for clarification, okay, or giving examples, exemplify, or rephrasing, giving another name, okay. So bridge player, okay, his bridge player is clarifying information, okay, is clarifying information, okay, and then she continues to elaborate, okay. Because she said naughty, she's responsible for her remark. So she gives, some background information about this adjective. He gets banned. This Allenby person gets banned from everywhere because of his antisocial or drunken behavior, right? And then Nick, okay, having this kind of like support, okay, having this support from Faye, okay, further expands his information, and he just yaps all the time. And this is the point he first made, okay, in his enhancing sentence, right? Cause all you'd get is bloody raving on. Okay, bloody raving on is just talking and talking. Okay, and Nick repeats the same point by saying, and he just yap. Yap is a slang expression for talking continuously. Okay, without stopping. Okay, that's yap. Okay, so this is now we know. So it's building up some particular angle on this Allenby person, right? Building up a particular angle, okay, an angle on Allenby. Okay, so for this, we no, the participants, okay, two of them supply more and more information, okay, more and more information. And for that, well, usually Allenby is the person in focus, okay? He's the person in focus, okay? So usually the techniques used are either elaborate or enhance, okay? If we used extend, okay, if you enhance, okay? If you used extend, then we would introduce one more entity, okay, to be focused on, okay? One more entity to be focused on. So that's extend, okay? So when we want to build up some case, okay, some argument about somebody, okay, we usually supply more information by using elaborating on enhancing. So that's what we are looking at here, okay? And now we can just go on like this. So, well, that's if we have enough time, but unfortunately we don't have too much time for this kind of exercise. So I just want you to read the rest of the conversation, okay, and then you'll get, how a particular topic is introduced, and then either, the topic is kind of accepted, okay, taken up by everybody, or, maybe rejected, okay, for some reasons, okay. So that kind of movement is very clear from, these sentences, okay. So if you just check all those remarks, okay, marked with O, okay, there you see some new topic introduced, okay, some new topic introduced. So immediately after this, we have a new topic, okay, a new topic that is David, the first speaker, okay, who wanted to, have Allenby in the conversation, okay, said this: I suppose he gives you a hard time, Nick. Okay, so you don't seem very much to like him. I don't know. Okay, so you don't seem to very much like him. Okay, but is it because he gives you a hard time, Nick? So that's the remark. Now, the topic is changed, right? Okay, the first topic is having him in the conversation, but the second topic is, does Allenby give you a hard time often or usually? Okay, Nick? Okay, so that's the next conversation topic. Okay, so like this, the topics move, the topics change. Okay, when the first initiated topic is not acceptable, then the speaker might choose to propose another topic. And so this is another topic proposed by David. Okay, so that's how we, move through conversation by proposing one topic. Okay, and if that's accepted, then everybody will talk about that. But if it's not accepted, then somebody else might suggest another topic. Okay, so that way, the conversation just keeps going. Okay, and so we have on this page we have 3 more new topics, right? The next new topic is: you met his sister that night we were doing the cutting and pasting up. So this sister is a sister of Allenby's. Okay, so Allenby has a sister, okay, whose name is Jill. Okay, so the new topic is talking about Allenby's sister Jill, and the third topic is Jill's very bright. Actually, she's very good. Okay, so since Jill as a topic has been accepted, now the new topic is her brightness. Okay, probably in order to compare her brightness with her brother Allenby. Okay, so the new topic is Jill's brightness. Jill very bright actually. Okay, Jill's very bright actually. And the last topic at the bottom is at least he's doing well. At least he's doing well in London. So this is the situation, the current situation of Allenby. Okay, who is in London. Okay, so this is slightly changing, trying to change the course of conversation. So Allenby is all right. Okay, he's all right now. Okay, so like this, we see how conversation moves by choosing new topics. Okay, or continuing the same topic for a very long time. Okay, and if you turn over the page, we see this new topic about, how he is in London is continued, okay, by, many participants, right? Participants, okay? So that's, how a casual conversation like this goes, okay? So this is a sample of casual conversation, okay? If we look at completely different types of conversation, the moves of initiating and responding will also be very, very different. Okay, and that situation can be seen from our sample conversations. Okay, and probably next time we can take just a very brief look at this Amex conversation, okay, and which is a business transaction. Okay, so where the topics are all related to, this buying and selling, right? Buying and selling. The customer has a particular object, okay, particular merchandise he wants to buy, okay, and the seller has that particular merchandise, okay, and a choice of them, okay, to sell. And so the new topics are all, concerned with these, commodities to be exchanged between the customer and the seller, okay. So we will see a completely different moves of in changing the topic, okay, in changing the topic. The new topics, okay? And another sample conversation is conversation from American National Corpus. And this is, eliciting some interesting story from childhood, eliciting a childhood story. And this is an interview, okay? So the purpose is to get the interviewee to come up with an interesting story she experienced in her childhood. Okay, again, this is not a casual conversation. So the moves are all directed to this one goal of eliciting. Okay, that is, drawing. Okay, eliciting interesting childhood story from the interviewee. Okay. And we have one more very long sample conversation that is a whole news hour, okay? And there, the conversation is usually some interview, okay, on particularly important issues, okay, at the time, important current issues at the time, okay. So then the purpose is more focused, okay? The moves have more sharpened focuses, okay? Okay? So then the change in the initiated topic is intentionally done, okay? So it has a more complicated structure, okay? And I hope we can take a look at that long interviews, towards the end of this course, okay? And then, so we are finished about this. Okay, so the points are, well, we have this cycle of casual conversation, initiating and reacting. Okay, but in between we have some process of negotiation, and well, they include the processes include tracking, rejoindering. But on top of this, we add information. Okay, we add information to the initiated speech function in order to narrow down. Okay, in order to narrow down the proposed speech function. Okay, narrow down the proposed speech function. That was the point. Okay, now since we don't have enough time, well, instead of having a discussion time, I want to go straight to the second topic, okay? And let me just introduce the second topic by reviewing this. Okay? So now we are in the middle of discussing syntax, okay? We are discussing syntax. Okay, and syntax is about how you combine words into phrases, groups, and more, further, larger, expressions like clauses, and then clauses can also be combined together to form clause complexes, and then you have independent clauses, combined together to form a text. Okay, so that's the rough image of from words to a text. Okay, from words to text by combining smaller expressions to larger and larger expressions. Okay, and for this, two things. Okay, one is entities, and the other one is probably activities. Okay, we usually think in terms of this dichotomy. Okay, this dichotomy. Okay, entities and activities. Okay, so. And this dichotomy is directly reflected in the model of process, participants, and circumstantials. Okay, so entities corresponds to participants, and then activities, processes, and we also have other information about circumstantials. And usually, circumstantials are a combination of participants and processes. Why? Because usually, when I said John went to the station, okay, you can also say John walked to the station. Okay, and this to the station is, well, this indicates direction of movement. Okay, but the difference between English and Japanese is, in English you have two expressions of process. That is, one is verb, the other one is preposition. So unlike Japanese and many Asian languages, English has two places, okay, where you can indicate movement, okay, movement. Okay, so that's why we can say John walked to the station, okay, in English, but if you said it in Japanese, John wa eki ni, oops, this is not 駅。Okay. ジョンは駅に行った is okay in Japanese, but ジョンは駅に歩いた is bad, right? Why? Because 歩いた in Japanese can indicate movement, but に here, this particle, okay, called 格助詞, okay, cannot indicate a similar process of movement, okay? So there is this difference between English and Japanese, okay? So this makes, kind of correspondence between two languages rather difficult, okay? Now, the point is this. So circumstantials are usually combination process and participant, okay? And then these are further, projected, not projected, but further, I have the word, which I cannot recall, maybe translated into nominal groups, okay, predicators, okay, and circumstantial prepositional phrases, and so on. Okay, so this is roughly the map. Okay, for us to somehow associate these syntactic entities, that is expressions. Okay, and these, meanings, okay, meanings which we want to translate into language, okay? So this is form side of the language, and this is the content side of the language, right? Okay? Now, another thing we know about these things, okay, some of these things is, well, when we use nominal groups, okay, what we do is to refer to something, okay, refer to something, okay, that's nominal groups are for referring, referring to something, okay. How many different ways of referring do we have? That's our question. Okay, that's our question. Okay, there are all sorts of different ways of referring to something. Okay, so there are many different ways of referring. Referring. Now, and we have encountered this situation when we looked at this example. Those two splendid old electric trains with pantographs. Okay, since this is a grammar course, and grammar is there in order to help students to, make shortcuts. Okay, if we are a child, okay, we can spend probably 12 years, 10 to 12 years to master language. But for learners like us, okay, we cannot afford to spend so much time. So that's the reason, okay, that's one reason why we have, this thing called grammar, okay. So grammar must be there, okay, in order to inform the learner, okay, inform the learner about, some of the important points, okay, which the learner might not realize, if he is working on his own, okay, if he is working on his own. So grammar must make it possible to, to have shortcuts, okay, okay. So for that, we have to do lots of categorizations, okay. So nobody likes to, have categories like deictic. This is called deictic. This is called numerative. Okay, and this is called epithet 1. And this is called epithet 2. And then this is called classifier. And this is the head. And this part is called qualifier. Why does grammar want to set up so many different categories for just a nominal group like this? Because we rarely have a nominal group this long, right? This long. We usually have probably 3 words, okay? Like, lovely evenings, okay? Lovely evenings, okay? In Bali, okay? So 4 words, okay? So this is a rather long one, right? When we speak. But by setting up, okay? By having this set up, we can cope with all the possible cases of nominal groups. So that's the reason, okay? That's the reason we set up these unfamiliar names, okay? Categories. And another thing is, these categories, okay, and their order, relative order, okay, between themselves, okay, will serve as a template, okay? Will serve as a template for building new nominal groups, okay? Building new nominal groups, okay? Now, if we can link, okay, if we can connect more concrete meanings or more concrete functions for each category, then this categorization makes sense, right? Makes sense. Or, well, we feel it useful to have these many categories, right? Okay, so we want to associate different functions for each category, okay? For each category, okay? So that's what we are going to do, okay? So we have just enough time to introduce some important ones, okay? We already know that head, okay? Head is the center of a nominal group. So this is the center. Why? Well, this decides the subject-verb concord, okay? Subject-verb agreement. Okay, so if we have trains, the verb should be in the plural. Okay, these electric trains are, not is. Okay, so this is the center of the group. Okay, classifiers is necessary to narrow down this category. Okay, so the head trains have very many members, but only some of them are electrical trains. Okay, so classifier serve to narrow down the class of reference. Okay, so this process is narrow down the class of reference. So we have fewer members, okay? Without electrical, we have more members, okay, for this group. But once we add this information, well, we are only interested in electrical trains, okay, electrical trains, then the class is much, much smaller, okay? So we succeeded in narrowing down the class of reference. So this is one important I don't know, maybe we should not use the word function, but we are now going to talk about different ways of referring, okay? Different ways of referring, okay? That is pointing to something, okay? If you used just one word, you can point to this whole set, okay? But if you used two words, electrical train, then you can point to a narrower set, smaller set, right? So this is a very important act, maybe, okay, act, okay? And usually this act is called modification, okay, modification. Okay, so if you modify, okay, something, okay, your reference becomes smaller, okay, your reference becomes smaller, okay? But epithets, these are just expressions of your opinion, right? So these things, okay, epithets don't serve to narrow down the reference, okay? So this is just expression of your opinion, okay? Or they are splendid, and they are also old, okay? They are also old, okay? And then two, okay? This is about the size of the referent, right? So those electric trains, well, those electric trains must be not just one but many. But if you added two, the size becomes clear, and it's just two, okay? The size is two, okay? So this is what numeratives do, okay? And the last one, deictic, okay? So this is the first important thing. Please look at the revised version of nominal group handout, okay? So before we had just one page, but now we have 3 pages of, different categories, right? So deictic has 2 kinds, demonstrative, and then let's see, what else? Yeah, well, this is much more difficult to figure out. But yeah, so there are several different classes of deictics. Okay, deictics are also called indexicals. Okay, they are also called indexicals, deictic and indexicals. And the meaning is pointing to. Okay, they are all pointing to. That is, you can only point to something visible, right? Something visible. Okay, so deictics are, in the first place, okay, not in its extended sense, but in the first place, originally, okay, a device for pointing to. Okay, a device for pointing to something. Okay, so the first examples are this, that, these, those. Okay, this, that, these, those. Okay, and determinative deictic words, and we also have non-determinative or indeterminative. Okay, assume that the hearer can identify the referent of the head noun. Okay, so if you have seen the book somewhere, and this is, this can only be used when the hearer knows the referent book, okay, already. Have you seen the book? Okay, so this is the starting point. But if you compare this with which book are we supposed to buy for the course, which book? Now, this, is not assuming the knowledge of the referent, right? Which book, okay? So there's this difference between, assuming the knowledge of the referent and not assuming the knowledge of the referent. Okay, so this is the starting point, and we will continue from this point. Okay, next time. So the first important thing is assuming the knowledge of the referent. Okay, so if you set up this criteria, okay, there are the other half that is not assuming, and there are many different ways of not assuming the knowledge. Okay, so that's what we see from this list of different ways of referring. Okay, so which book is one, but one book. Okay, some book, a particular book, or we have every book. Okay, every book. Okay, again, every book. Oh, it's already time. Maybe every book. Okay, so you are referring to a set of books, but not any particular one. All of them. Okay, all of them. And this is, again, a case of not assuming the knowledge of the referent, a specific referent. Okay, so we will go into the details of how we distinguish between different cases of assuming the knowledge and not assuming the knowledge of the referent next time. Okay, so that's it. Thank you.